selling with authenticity.
It's building that relationship, about the value.
Because you want to make that impact.
It can make you happy.
Elevate others around
Welcome
us.
to the Selling from the Heart podcast, your home for authentic, effective, and socially integrated sales strategies to help you master the art of selling. Join your co-hosts Larry Levine and Daryl Amy, along with some of the world's best sales thought leaders and practitioners, as we explore ways to help you grow your sales.
Hello and welcome back to the Selling from the Heart podcast. Your co-host Daryl Amy here today with Larry Levine. What's going on, Larry?
Hey! First of all, Happy New Year. We got all kinds of things brewing. It's a new year. Everything. Most of all, I love this podcast. I just love hanging out, talking to just really cool people.
It is really amazing, and we have got an incredible year ahead. I already know some of the guests that are coming on the podcast, but the thing that I'm most excited about, Larry, and it's right around the corner.
Okay, tell me.
I don't know if you've heard about the 2023 Authentic Selling Challenge.
Maybe.
The 2023 Authentic Selling Challenge is here. It's starting on Monday, January 9th. It's going through the 13th, and we have an incredible roster of coaches that are going to motivate us, that are going to equip us, that are going to inspire us. It is going to be an amazing week. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I mean, this is the third annual, but Don Barden's kicking it off on Monday.
Just wait till you meet Don. Oh my goodness.
I'm telling you, the perfect plan will come alive somehow. And then we have the one and only Meredith Elliott Powell. We have the awesome Liz Wendling, Brent Adamson. Be prepared, and then we're going to
challenge your sale in the house. Oh my gosh!
And then we'll round it out with our dear friend Colleen Stanley. It's going to be an incredible week.
So here's the good news. It's going to be live every day at 12 noon Eastern time. That's 9 if you're on the West Coast like Larry. We'll do the math if you're around the world. The good news is, though, you may be listening in and go, well, January 9th through 13th, that ship is sailed. If you're listening in the future, don't panic. We're recording the entire thing. So even if you're listening in the future and you miss it live, we're going to record the entire thing, and it's all available to you absolutely free at AuthenticSellingChallenge.com. AuthenticSellingChallenge.com. Get registered. We want you there live, though, because what's going to happen is we're going to be able to interact with these coaches and their generosity to come and spend this time with us, to invest in us. Let's show out strong. Let's show up. Let's get ready. Let's set up an amazing year. I'm so excited. AuthenticSellingChallenge.com. Hey, a huge shout out to everyone out in the Selling from the Heart world. I know many of you listen to the podcast in audio format. You may or may not know that we also record video. The Selling from the Heart show is live on YouTube. And thanks to everyone out there, we now have 1,000 subscribers, our first benchmark. That's the first of many on our path to 10,000. But thank you, everybody, for subscribing. And if you haven't subscribed to Selling from the Heart on YouTube, guess what, Larry? It's time to get on the bandwagon.
Yeah, not only that is you get a chance to see these two great-looking mugs every single week on YouTube. I mean, come on.
What more could you want? So please share it. That's great for sharing on LinkedIn, sellingfromtheheart.net. There's a treasure trove of resources there in addition to the weekly podcast. Just head over to YouTube, click that subscribe button, and don't miss an episode. How about that? Well, we got an episode today that you don't want to miss, because guess who's in the house, Larry?
I think Carrie McCann's in the house.
Carrie McCann is in the house. Carrie, welcome to the Selling from the Heart podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. This is, how many years, right? I've been watching this, and to be here with you both, this is a dream.
Oh, I know this has been a great journey. So just a quick backstory, and then we'll all get rolling. Is my path with Carrie crossed many years ago on LinkedIn, and then we both came out of the same channel. We both came out of the Office Technology channel, and I had an opportunity at the company she was working for to speak, and Carrie sit in front row center. And afterwards, we finally met, we shook hands and all that, and formed a friendship, which I swore I swore, and I promised sorry for the lengthy intro, but I promised I'd never coach anybody. And Carrie broke me down. And Carrie
broke them
McCann,
down.
and Carrie McCann was my very first coaching client here at Selling from the Heart. We've been on an amazing journey together that led me to Carrie, that led Carrie to Selling from the Heart, who's now actively involved in Selling from the Heart. So Carrie, welcome to Selling from the Heart podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, I go back. I mean, I remember that moment like it was yesterday. And I do remember because I was front row and I was like raising my hands. And it was like sitting there like, wait a minute, what? And, I think that's the whole point is to start making those questions inside, like, and it resonated and it felt, so many times I think when we're in sales, it's like things go through our mind, like, is that the right thing? Is that okay to do? Is this, the right path?
Mm-hmm.
And there was just some things that you said. I'll never forget this. The question I had at the end was like, well, I don't want to put on LinkedIn, like who my clients are. I don't want to bring any attention to that. And Larry goes, you don't think people already, like your competitors, you don't think they already know that those are your clients? I was like, it was like this light bulb moment. And I was like, oh yeah. So how about I actually, take it to the next level with my clients and actually give them that space and, market them. I didn't even, it was like I was in jail, is like, I can only do these things and I can only do this. I worked so hard to be like, follow the rules I thought I had to follow. Right. So yeah, that gives me goosebumps just thinking.
I love it.
So
I love this
It's so
story, and it's such a great bridge into the question that every guest on the Selling from the Heart podcast answers, Carrie. And I know you're ready for this because we've talked about this at length in so many different conversations inside Selling from the Heart. But I'm curious, as you think about this question fresh today, what does it mean to Carrie to sell from the heart?
Mm-hmm. I think we could do the full podcast on that question. And I've been thinking about this, and I think how I'm going to answer this today is just because this has been such a journey. And what I've noticed about this whole process, this whole journey, taking a deeper dive into myself is it's okay to change over time. So if you would have asked me 5 years ago when Larry and I first started coaching, my answer would have been totally different. And that's okay. And it's like over time, like we change with the outlook. So for me, selling from the heart today, because I can't wait to go back and listen to this from a year from now, because I think we'll probably change again. But I think where I'm at today in the selling piece, yes, but from the heart, so many times I would be in my head, and it would be these thoughts going back and forth, like I can do this, I can't do this. But what I found was there's that instinct, that gut feeling that we got to follow, not necessarily those thoughts and that voice that say, nope, you can't do this. Living from the heart is bringing out your real voice, and not asking for opinions. I was the person that would be like, okay, I had like this really great creativity, like idea. I was ready to go. But before I would go and do it, I'd be like, hey, Larry, what do you think about that? Hey, Daryl, hey, what do you think if I do this? So all of a sudden I have 20 different opinions and now I've lost that creative idea. So I think selling from the heart is, going inside and listening to your true voice. It's listening to those instincts like, no, this feels right. And then, that's when the magic to me happens is when you're yourself, and that's a journey in itself too, right? Like finding who you really are and doing what's right at the end of the day, being able to put my head down on the pillow at the end of the night, knowing I did my best and it feels right. So to me, that's what selling from the heart is.
Oh, this is so good. And I applaud you because you've been on one heck of a journey over the last couple of years. But there's, as I was listening to what you're saying, I really wanted to key in on a couple of things. We're going to dive into an amazing podcast, an amazing conversation with you is we got to get out of our head and into our heart. And we have to give ourselves permission
Mm-hmm.
And you use that word, and I really wanted to key in on that because so often in sales, we don't give ourselves permission to crawl out of our head and go into our heart. However, when it comes to our personal lives, we do crawl into our heart. And we have to be able to make that bridge and that connection that it's okay to do
Right
that
there.
in our professional life. But it comes with doing that inner work. And I know as we kick this off, you've been on that journey to do that inner work, and it led you to some amazing results in your sales career, and it actually transformed your life. So I just applaud you because you gave yourself permission to go there.
It was, when I look back, I mean, really, it started with you, Larry. When I think back to that moment, I had just had my daughter. I think that was 2018. So I can't. I'm doing the math. Okay, how old is she? But I had just come off maternity leave. And now I look back at it as I had 3 months to sit still for the first time.
Oh,
wow. I had 3 months to, and I remember this when I had my first child. Prior, I was like, get back to work, let's go. Like, I don't, I loved it, but at the same time, it was like, whoa, because he's eating, he's sleeping. And then I had time. And I was an F5 tornado constantly, go, 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 go. So then it really hit me when I had my daughter. It was like, okay, I forced myself to take the full 3 months. I really tried to not answer emails and be in that moment. But what I found is I really didn't know how to be in the moment. It was like I would pick up the phone, or, it was really hard. So I remember when I got back, I was like, okay, when I get back, everything will be fine. I get back and it wasn't. It was like, and yet I was at the pivotal point in my career. Things were going great. I was a top producer. Things were going well with the clients. The money was there. And for me, it was never really about the money, but the money had finally came. So all of a sudden it's like, okay, I got all these things. Why am I not happy? Why does it feel like something's missing? And that really started the whole journey. And that's when I forced Larry to coach me. Like, literally, like, I remember going back and forth with him several times. And it was that moment. It was that coaching that sparked something inside me to say, you can do it differently. And all of a sudden, my true voice was coming a little bit stronger, a little bit more confident, a little bit more louder. Ask some of my former colleagues, they were probably like definitely louder, right? But all of a sudden, it was like, it was okay to have a different way, And I think back, like, when I got out of college, right? And this is going to date myself, but it was back in 2003. And what I went to college for was administrative information systems, nothing to do with sales, right? And I was an administrative secretary, I think. And I was in that role for 6 months. And the next thing I know, I'm in sales with no training. Like, I'm fresh out of college. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. So, like, I'm literally taking, like, everything that person is training me at that point as the truth. Like, this is the Bible. This is what I got to follow. This is all the things I need to do.
Yeah.
Not once did I allow my voice to really come through, because I was like, nope, this is how it's done. So fast forward, 13, 14 years, and I'm still kind of doing it that way. I was still being that quiet self and questioning myself in every avenue. And then it sparked, it changed. And I started implementing different things and worked on my mindset. And the next thing I know, it was like I was having deep, meaningful conversations with my clients. And it's not that before I wasn't, but it just took it to a whole new level. When I could get out of my head, then I could be present.
Yep.
Because I remember, like, being in meetings and I was already at the finish line. I was already at the end of the meeting. I wasn't even there with them. I thought I was. I really did. I thought I was, but I wasn't present. So to go from that and experience that awareness changed my life. I literally did.
One of the things I'm just sitting here having this existential moment in all of this, realizing what a beautiful profession and terrible profession we're in sales, because it just challenges you to your core. But the beautiful, and unlike maybe any other profession, I'm sure there's others, but sales is one of those professions where, this is highly relational. We say people buy from people, and then we exclude relationship from everything. It doesn't make any sense at all. But there's this journey that we're invited to go on, or forced in some ways, because ultimately what does happen is you do hit that point where, you are making money. You are going, I got everything I wanted. And then you realize you have the gift of that realization that there's more to life than that. And that the actual key to success is maybe different than we thought all along. And it's so cool that just sales has this ability to bring us to the end of ourselves in a way like maybe very few professions do. And I think that's one of the best reasons to get in sales.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When you were talking, it took me back to a moment, and I remember the year, it was right before 2020. It was right before the pandemic. And, every year we would have a big kickoff meeting, and it's where they announced the awards. And, at the time I was trying to go for top rep. I think I finished in the top 3. But my goal was to like cross that stage, like that following year. I'm like, I'm going to cross that stage. I'm going to get top producer. Like that was like my main focus. And then it just hit me. It was like, you know what? I need to change this goal. This doesn't feel right anymore. The goal I wanted was to be number 1 with myself. And I really poured all that work and that energy into that. And like, I have goosebumps just still thinking about it. And that's where it like forever changed, is when I decided to be number 1 with myself. I was always looking on the outside. I was looking like, okay, once I have this, once I have that. And I didn't realize that all the answers were actually sitting right inside me.
It's so interesting you bring that up, because like Daryl said, sales is a great profession, but sales is also a very difficult profession, right? And the first thing I hear when I start, listening what you just said about finishing number 1 is we're constantly benchmarked. We are constantly benchmarked in sales. And you know what? There's good and bad to that, because you have to know where you sit.
Right. But
what it does, it just really weighs on your heart, because we're always chasing these external goals, right? Look at however many people are sitting on side of a sales team. Y'all know where you rank. All you got to do is either check your email for your rankings or look on a board if it's there.
Your board. Yeah.
Right. But then here's what happens is, think about all those salespeople that are at the bottom, or they're at the middle or something like that. Though they may not show it, it's weighing on them. It's constantly weighing on them. And in sales, unfortunately, we're coached to all the outer things that we do, all the skill set and all the things that we need to do, which is the outer part of sales. But how many leaders, and I want you to speak to this here in a moment, is how many leaders and how many salespeople will allow themselves grace and coach themselves to go, you know what? There's more to this. If I'm chasing these external goals, what am I really chasing?
Right. It's so true. And when I go back to that space and that time, it was like, if you threw up a 0, you were in, it's like, you don't want to throw up that 0. And so all of a sudden you're putting all your energy into that. And then what happens when we're meeting with clients? They feel that, you don't think you're bringing that energy to the table, but you are. It's like, the last week of the month, and, quotas due, and you haven't hit your numbers, and you're making quick dials and you're making quick messaging, and it comes out that way. You don't mean for it to to come out that way, but it does. And I'll never forget this conversation. I had a really good manager, and he was a leader at the time in the company. And I remember when he found out that I was actually coaching with you, and that he almost felt not embarrassed, but like felt bad that I had to go out and seek that. And I was like, no. And I'm like, you are so busy. You're doing, 500 other things. I have no doubt that he didn't want to sit down and, train me a little bit more or, coach me, but he didn't have the time. So what happened was I was getting like parts of like, his brain, like over time, I was like, but I didn't get that continuous. So when I decided to invest in myself, all of a sudden it was my dollars, right? And it opened up a whole new world. Because at that point, like if he would have paid for the training, I'm not sure I would have probably got the same out of it. But once I made that investment in myself, I was going to make sure that I was going to, spend all that time like really diving in. But I'll never forget that conversation. It had no reflection at all on the training I was getting, but he just didn't have enough time, right, to have what I needed at that point.
I think there's just to put a highlighter on this, there's wisdom here for sales professionals and sales leaders in all of this. For sales professionals to realize that, there is an investment that you need to make in yourself. There needs to be an investment of some kind.
Yes.
And you had the courage to step out and do that. And I think, obviously it has paid a lot of dividends in many different areas, but also for leaders as well, to realize that if you're leading, your people need an investment. And, the reality is we're going to have the Super Bowl here soon. And as this is being recorded, there's no professional football team where the head coach goes, I'm the head coach. I don't need any other coaches, right? I got this. But the reality is, you need strength and conditioning coaches. You need nutrition coaches. You need mindset coaches. All of these different coaches come in. And I think that as sales leaders, it's important to be open-minded, open-hearted to the reality that your people, it's important to invest and that you do need coaches. And if you have a sales professional that goes out and seeks training or coaching on their own, that should be like, that's awesome. That's cheer it on, because that's actually going to be a really good thing. There's no football team in America, not one that's going to show up at the Super Bowl, that has a head coach that goes, I'm the coach. They don't need anyone else. Y'all go play football. You know what you're doing. Go play. I hired you to play football because you know how to play football, right? We have that mindset. I hired you because you're a good salesperson. Hey, as we're rounding this out, Carrie, I'm just curious what advice you would give to other sales professionals that are listening in, saying, wow, Carrie's story is really resonating with me. Like, how would you recommend someone who's at that point that you were talking about earlier in the conversation? What would you recommend they do? What are some steps you think that if you were coaching them, you would say, hey, here's where I'd get started?
Well, first, I think when I go back to that point where I was, let's normalize. It's okay to not be okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's when those questions and those feelings come up, it's like, it's okay to feel that way. I think sometimes we try to push that away and act like it's not there. And then we continue the F5 tornado and just keep going. So one, it's okay. It's normal. It happens, right? It's life getting your attention, saying, hey, we can't continue doing it this way anymore. So look at that more as this light bulb moment of, let's make a change here. Let's figure out what's working and what's not working. When I also go back to that time, ask questions, ask for help. Because I think in a sales environment, sometimes when we're with a group, whether you're just starting or you're a tenured rep, sometimes you don't want to ask the question because it's like, oh, they're going to think I don't know what I'm doing, and the truth is, do we really all know what we're doing? Like we're trying to figure this out. But somewhere in my career, I was tunnel vision. I was, okay, this is where I'm going. This is what I got to do. I got to, everything's got to move fast. Somewhere in all of that, I stopped growing. I stopped learning, meaning it's not that I wasn't like learning, the product and all that, but it was like somewhere I stopped expanding. And I'm not sure I can even still put the my finger on exactly when that happened. But I remember, when I started picking up books again, and it was like, oh, oh, that was a aha. Listening to your podcast, listening to the guests that you were having on, it was like, yeah, that resonates. That feels right. And I had stopped. It was like, nope, start my day. I got to do this, A, B, C, and then, finish the day and then repeat, put it on repeat. But somewhere in all of that, I had stopped expanding. So when you have that moment, right, like ask for help, ask some questions, find that person. I think we all need that person that we can vent to and just let it out to. So if you don't have a person, find that person. It helps. And then you find a Larry, right? Like Larry and I, man. Ooh, I remember Larry. Do you remember that one call where it got really deep?
Yeah, it got deep. It got deep.
It got deep, but you know what it was? It was like I had a fear. I hated cold calling. I hated it. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to, it's like I think I spent more time on figuring out ways not to cold call than actually just doing it.
And here's the funny thing. I called her out on it.
Oh, big time.
That's what Coach does.
Time. Oh yeah. And I remember when we would like role play, like, okay, Carrie, I'm going to be, customer, you be the rep. And I tried to like change the subject 20 different times. And I'm like, oh, he doesn't see it. He knew what I was doing, but Larry, you knew I needed to come to that point on my own, that I couldn't stop hiding. I couldn't stop, I had to stop working in fear.
Yeah.
So what that moment for me was finally addressing my fears, finally like peeling it all back. Like, why do I have a hard time picking up the phone? Like, why am I having a struggle with rejection? And the truth is it took a couple of years to figure it all out and the core wound of it all, but I did. And that took some work, but the statement I can make to that is it will set you free. It will literally set your soul free when you find that truth of why. And then you realize it had nothing ever to do with cold calling. It didn't, so when you're struggling, with something, this is another piece of advice I would give sales. Maybe you need to tweak the style, right? Because I think sometimes what we do is we come in and say, this is our experience. This is what worked for us. Now you go, implement it, copy and paste, right? Like this is what worked, go do it. The truth is we're all unique individuals. We all have our own core beliefs. And I think sometimes I just struggled with, well, do I really want to go? That doesn't feel great. So there was a little fear there, but there was also I needed to bring in my own unique style to it. I needed to bring the Carrie flair, right? And I wasn't bringing that flair. It was just, I was like in a robotic script. And when you're in a robotic script, of course, you're going to get those rejections. So once I started finding my own voice, tackling those fears, all of a sudden it was like this light about me, this energy about me. I know like right now that the people that I used to work with, they're just sitting back like, oh yeah, we remember when Carrie's passion. But think about how contagious that is.
Yes. Yes.
Energy attracts. So
I love it.
Hey, this is so good. Before we wrap up, I just have to comment on what Carrie just said, because I really want to address the sales leaders that are listening to what Carrie's throwing down here right now. And there's some gold right here. And here's what I would encourage sales leaders. Carrie used, when you find your unique voice here, as we start looking into 2023, because we're just barely creeped into it, is if you're a sales leader, lean into your salespeople. And when I say lean into your salespeople, it's not like lean into them and do one of those.
Not that.
Right. I'm nodding my head for those that are listening to this on the on your favorite podcast channel. If you're watching it, you saw my head nod. When I say lean in, really spend some time with your salespeople and understand what makes them tick, what makes them come alive. Help them and encourage them, bring out their unique voice. And then when you layer on your coaching and your training that you do on a weekly basis, watch what starts to happen with the results.
Yes.
I'm just going to encourage you to do this as you listen to what Carrie said and you unpack her story. Sales leaders, and salespeople. Find your unique voice, bring it to the forefront, layer coaching and training on top of it, and watch what starts to happen as they repurpose this out into the marketplace.
Oh, I love it.
Larry, one thing I when you were talking, it reminded me of something when I remember when I first started, right? I was watching the top producers, and I did ask for their advice. I did follow them and shadow them, but what I realized was I was trying to be them. And that was a moment that clicked for me as well. Was I was never going to be them. You know, it was like, I remember going to learn how to play golf because I thought that's what I needed to do. I mean, now I love golf, so I'm glad I did, you know, but that's where you got to play around with things too and figure out what works for you and what doesn't.
Yeah.
But I was trying to be someone I wasn't. I spent so much time doing that. Like, okay, if they're a top producer, then I need to do A, B, C, and D. But the truth was I needed to find X, Y, and Z myself.
Yep.
And once I found that and it was like, oh, this works. Oh, this feels right. Then you start coming into your own path, your own way. And then it's like that just expands from there. So for those that are just starting out, it's not that you don't want to watch the top producers, like go have conversations, start picking tools, right? From everyone. It's like, okay, that works for me. That resonates. Then tweak it, make it you.
Yep.
I love it. Carrie, this is great. And now I always want people to know how they can get a hold of you. You're part of the Selling from the Heart team now. You're on mission, you're training, you're coaching people. And I know there's many people listening in that go, man, I want some more Carrie McCann in my life. I want Carrie to come work with me or my team. So how can folks get a hold of you, Carrie? Other than going to the Selling from the Heart website, of course.
Yeah, Selling from the Heart website or C. McCann at sellingfromtheheart.net. And if anything, reach out to any of us, right?
Yeah.
Like we're here, and this changed my life. This sparked something. This transformed me, and that's why I'm back here with with the team. When you surround yourself with like-minded, it's just, we bring a whole different energy, and I want to help people. I remember that place. I do. So just let me put out that hand and help guide you.
Oh, this is so good. This is so good. And one last thing, connect with Carrie McCann on LinkedIn because she puts out,
encouraged.
You're going to get encouraged, but she's going to put out content through the lens of a salesperson. And she not only speaks to salespeople, but she speaks to sales leaders every single day with her message. So, hey, Carrie, thanks for hanging out with us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Love it.
All
Thank
right.
you. And Larry, what an amazing conversation. So many aha moments. But I think the one thing, if I'd sum this whole thing up, at least from my perspective, is this year, pay attention to your heart. Pay attention to what's going on inside. Don't ignore that. I think sometimes we're afraid that that's going to mess us up. It's actually the key to our success.
It absolutely is. And the whole podcast, this quote just kept ringing through my head. I don't know why, but it did. And it's a Tony Robbins quote. I'm not going to get it verbatim, but y'all just follow along with me for a second. It's when we stop learning and growing, weeds start growing in our head. And the weeds that I'm going to ask you to think about is self-doubt and fear. And so we got to keep growing. We got to keep learning. The world's constantly changing around us. Your clients are changing. Your future clients are changing. Your community and your marketplace is changing. So it behooves you to change right along there with everybody. So remove the weeds, remove the self-doubt, invest in yourself in 2023.
Yeah. And it's exactly what you're saying. There's this balance or this tension. You've got to do the outer work. You got to grow in your sales skills. You got to hit the numbers too, of course, but there's also the tension of the inner work as well. And so we want to challenge you to do the inner work. And one of the great ways to do that, Larry, to get started, it's beautiful transition, the 2023 Authentic Selling Challenge. It really is going to be amazing. I'm so excited about these different the variety of coaches that are coming in to invest in you, invest in me. I'm looking forward to this. So we want you to join us, and we'd ask you to help us spread the word. So go to AuthenticSellingChallenge.com and do two things: register, and then take that and share it. Share it with your colleagues, share it with your clients, share it with your social network. Let's be a part of spreading this movement of authenticity in the sales profession. www.authenticSellingChallenge.com will get you there. Well, Larry, we've got a lot ahead in this new year, many exciting things, and I just I'm thankful for all that's the way this year's starting out is so incredible. And here we go, Larry. This movement continues to grow. And everyone that is listening to our voice right now in the audience, you're part of this movement of authenticity in the sales profession. And from the bottom of our hearts, we appreciate you.
Yeah, no, we sincerely do. And I have one ask, and it's going to start getting repeated almost on every episode. Do this for us. Shout out what it means to you to sell from the heart. Just share it with us. What does selling from the heart mean to you, and why is it so important? Let us know. Tag us into these posts. I challenge you. Share a video, share
That's
a post on what it means to you to sell from the heart. Tag Selling from the Heart in, tag myself, tag Daryl into it, tag Carrie, tag Jackie Joy, tag Bill McCormick into it. We want to know, and then we want to give you a shout out.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe part of that video of what you say, what it means to you to sell from the heart, maybe that'll appear on a future episode of this show. We'd love to have it. Hey, thank you, everybody. Happy New Year. We'll see you next week at the Authentic Selling Challenge. And by the way, if you're listening in the future, just still go to AuthenticSellingChallenge.com, get the recordings. Till next time, keep being genuine, keep being authentic, keep adding real value, do the inside work, and most of all, sell from the heart.